So joining me on our latest episode is an absolute legend of makeup and special effects, a guy who quite literally shaped my journey through movies, working on titles such as Return of the Living Dead, Aliens, Lost Boys, Evil Dead 2, just to name a few. It's the iconic special effects legends and other words that associate with that. It's Mr. Tony Gardner. Hello.
Hey, how are you? Thanks
Uh,
for the intro. That's a lot to live up to.
yeah, I think your career owes it for that intro, to be fair. So, yeah.
I've just been doing a lot. I've been busy.
A bit of an understatement. Yeah, I love it. Like I say, we're a podcast. We do like 80s and 90s films and stuff. We've done
Okay.
a few episodes that are obviously of films maybe you've been associated with and stuff, but your back catalogue is just insane. So, um,
Uh,
if we start, I tend to start from the beginning, to be fair, if that's okay. Like work way
sure.
through the periods of your career, and yeah, just see where it takes us. That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
Right. So basically, like, so what originally inspired you to pursue special effects? I mean, was it like a specific movie or a monster or a moment, like where basically in a film where he's like, I want to do that.
Yeah, there was well, there's probably like three specific films that I had those moments where it's like I want to do that. Um, I was the weird kid in the neighborhood that had a movie camera and made movies with his friends on the weekends, and we would go see all sorts of different, sci-fi and horror movies when they come out to the theaters. And I saw Alien, the original Alien in the theaters, and was dumbfounded. I mean, it's kind of a haunted house movie. It's a very slow moving film for, you know,
Yeah.
a teenager to watch. But I was really into that. I was really into American Werewolf in London. And prior to that, it was the whole Planet of the Apes series where it was people in prosthetic makeups
Mm-hmm.
playing the apes and just I just remember sitting in the audience and it was Battle of the Planet of the Apes and all these apes you thought were dead suddenly sit up and come at all these mutant people and stuff. I was just like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And then after that, I watched Alien, and actually the very first thing that I did trying to copy something from a movie, um, I copied the face hugger from Alien,
Oh wow.
just out of cotton and latex with wooden dowels and masking tape and stuff. That was just to see if it was possible to do it, and I realized that I had a bit of an aptitude for it, so I just kept going.
Wow. I mean, we'll come on to it later, but obviously your dream almost, well, basically comes true then, don't it? Like, so, like, on
Yeah.
a massive scale. But going into like your first job in the industry, I mean, I've got down what you was first involved with. I mean, so what was the process to getting onto set of Thriller with Rick Baker?
I actually transferred to California to go to college to get into film, and I hated all my classes.
Hmm.
Kind of, I they accepted me as a fine arts major because I already had a weird portfolio of stuff, and they were just not into stuff that I was into. So I turned all my classes into independent study, so I could meet people.
Right.
And I turned one class paper into an opportunity in my eyes to meet Rick Baker, Steven Spielberg, and Carlo Rambaldi. I was going to do
Hmm.
it on mechanical effects as characters in the motion picture industry. And they were all obviously associated with E.T. or American Werewolf or whatever,
Hmm.
or Jaws. And those are all animatronics that were characters. So that was my sort of excuse to meet them. And when I went to interview Rick Baker finally for this, he ended up writing down notes while I was writing down my notes for my paper. And he started asking me questions and like, where did I learn how to do this stuff in Ohio, given there's no industry and no supplies, and we talked about that kind of stuff. Um, and then 2 weeks before school was supposed to start back up, he called and said, "You're kind of all over the place, and wanna you're into music, you're into theater, you're into puppets, you're into makeup effects, you're into filmmaking. I've got a job for 4 weeks. If you want to take it, you'd be a runner in our shop, picking up supplies and cleaning and stuff like that. But you could watch what we're doing and see if this is what you want to do or not. We're going to be doing makeup effects on a music video." I said, "Sounds great. When does it start?" And he said, "We just started." So I got on a plane the next day. It was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Um, and for 4 weeks, I was the guy that swept the floor, took out the trash. I started helping people though, and started making molds and started learning how to do more stuff.
Right.
And after the 4 weeks were over, he offered me a job on the show as a crew member, which meant then I got to build a zombie on myself. I got to be in
Wow.
it. I got to go to set. I was also still running. I had hired somebody from school to replace me, but I was still like moving supplies to set and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I got to sort of see the whole experience of
Yeah.
making a music video, and after that I was hooked, and I dropped out of school, and just the 4 week job turned into 4 years of working for him and learning on the job from, obviously the best in the business. So it
Oh,
was
wow.
a great opportunity.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's if I can't believe that's just like your first step into it. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Michael Jackson was like the biggest artist in the world at the time. So, like, when he told you, "Yeah, we're doing this music video, Thriller, blah blah blah," were you obviously into music? Like, holy shit, like that's incredible.
Yeah,
Or
I thought this will be really fun. I was more excited by the fact that it had zombies in it than it had Michael Jackson in it.
and like you say, you're in the video. I'm not. I can't recognize you, obviously, but
Yeah,
you're coming out of the ground as one of the
yeah,
zombies. Yeah.
yeah. When they skip by the graveyard, the first one that comes out is me. If you watch the making of, you can see John Landis yelling at me. Um, and then my arm falls off. I'm in the dance scene, and then I'm in the house on the far left when
Right.
when the zombies come at Ola Ray on the couch. And then in the theater scene, John Landis asked if anybody wanted to come be a seat filler for that. So I ended up 2 rows behind Michael, and
No way.
so I get to be a human in it as well. So you
That's
actually
mad.
do get to see my face.
Sure for now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like you say, so you was you following Rick Baker's career then? Like, so like he was one of the main reasons that you like pushing for that. Then was it like, or was it just like you say, you wrote to him and wanted to be part of it? So
Yeah,
we
I just really admired him and what he had done, and the chance I was happy just meeting him for my paper. That was my end goal. So
yeah.
then to get offered a job even for 4 weeks was amazing. And then for that to turn into 4 years was great. But at the time I was 18, and my parents were pretty upset that I moved away
Mm.
and started school and then dropped out and couldn't really get my money back. And I didn't have a car, and I was going to start a job where I needed a car. So it was just kind of like this explosion of chaos. But my parents really supported me and helped me. And my dad actually drove me out a giant Ford LTD, just giant boat of a car from Ohio in a couple days so that I could get to work. Um, there was no Uber back then, so
Yeah.
options were few.
You got parent taxi. That's all you need, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was really great.
So we did an episode recently on alligator and um,
Oh,
doing yeah. I mean, we go quite a deep dive into stuff like so we came across something with screenwriter John Sayles and so he was involved in a movie called Night Skies,
Oh,
and
right.
Rick Baker was apparently involved with that with Spielberg and all that. Like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it almost seems a bit crazy, the story that I read. Did, was you even around? Like, was anything happening when you got were you with Rick
No,
or
that had already they had already done the film test for that, and it
right?
got shut down. But it was more of a horror movie. They described it as Straw Dogs, but with aliens.
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
so the aliens were pretty mean, and like the main alien's name was Scar. Um, but they were like these weird little sort of monkey creatures, bald, no hair, reptilian monkeys.
yeah.
If you go on Rick Baker's Instagram and search, he's got some of the old designs there. But if you put up his design for the Night Skies alien next to ET, they're really similar
Yeah,
in proportions of eyes, nose, and mouth. The Rick's had a taller top to the head,
yeah.
but everything from the eyebrows down is kind of ET or a riff on that. You know what I mean?
So, I mean, so Spielberg obviously, I mean, it says that he wanted it as some sort of sequel to Close Encounters, but obviously
Yeah,
it was.
I
Well,
had
so,
heard that he just changed his mind and didn't want to do anything where the aliens were mean. He
right.
wanted something where they were gentle. And I guess ET started out as more of a parody of a lot of different things, like Francis Ford Coppola's, war movies and stuff like that. There were a lot more obvious visual references to other movies, and as the film went on, a lot of that stuff got pared down. It was like the Halloween night. There was a lot of Apocalypse Now kind of stuff.
Okay.
Um, there were like a lot of in jokes here, there, and
Yeah.
everywhere. A lot of that stuff kind of went away, and the story got sweeter as filming went on. At least that's how it was explained to me.
So what like so if he's put so much effort in and there was obviously some money spent on the prosthetics for it and all that for them to
Yeah, the
turn
aliens were
turn
done.
around, yeah,
Yeah,
for him to say like, yeah, we're not really doing that now if that's all right. Yeah, so what was Rick's reaction to that? Because that's a lot of work and effort, isn't it?
he was just on to the next thing and busy. He never really said anything, negative at all. Just
Wow.
that it turned into something different.
Yeah. So Spielberg stole. Yeah, so it obviously took some ideas from that script, and he's obviously went on to make some other movies of very similar, creatures and storylines. Anyway, that went on to be big hits from any. So yeah, well,
Yeah.
too bad in the end, was it?
No, I think everybody did okay in the end.
So not bad. So so before working like on the big productions, did you get to like experiment a lot? So when you started making it a little bit, so at home, like how does it
Oh
work?
yeah, I was doing stuff at home in Ohio, like the copying the chest burster, and I did a werewolf based on American Werewolf in London. Not exactly, but something that you could wear. Just I made it for Halloween,
Yeah.
you know. But I was always doing stuff like that and making puppets and doing magic shows and puppet shows and music and theater. I played standing bass in theater and I played drums. So I was always kind of in the arts, you know. Um, and then it just kind of got sort of focused as time went on. All the stuff that I do now, I mean, I look at it and it's kind of a combination of everything. It's kind of still a magic trick too, because you're taking something that isn't real and making it, making an audience believe that what you're doing is real or really happening.
Yeah.
And, same resources. So still doing the same thing I was doing when I was in my teens. I
Wow.
just don't need to shoot it with a Super 8 camera and develop film and tape it together to see what I've got. I can shoot everything on my camera now, on my
Wow.
phone.
Yeah. I mean, like phones now. I mean, they basically just movie cameras in their own right anyway, aren't they? So yeah,
Yeah,
it must be a
yeah,
great tool for you.
yeah. And there's a lot of apps now. Like the Black Magic camera has an app where you can really dial in the camera on your phone so you can do really professional stuff. So it's just the resources now are so amazing. And
Yeah.
just the opportunity to connect with people is great because when I was hunting down Rick Baker and Carlo Rambaldi, I was driving to the phone booths in the towns where they lived and going through the phone book, trying to figure out what was what. You know, you could call the operator or look in the phone booth or in the phone book, and those were your two options to find somebody. So
I love that. Yeah, when you see them in movies and they're literally like scrolling down the phone book, we like rip the page
yeah,
out to go
yeah.
like cross that off, cross. Oh god, yeah, it's just wild. Yeah, but someone like Rick Baker's just there in the phone book with his address and everything.
Well, yeah, but think about how many bakers there are.
Yeah. So was
In
that
that,
literally like Arnold Schwarzenegger
oh,
Terminator? Like, yeah, good to that one.
yeah,
No, it's not him.
yeah. It was just pages, pages, and every call was money, and
I
you
love
know,
it.
and then you're just driving the houses blind. But that was really the only way to find people. I didn't have any film connections. I was just, student. So
That's crazy.
on my own. Yeah, but it was a good time,
Oh,
I
I
learned to be
bet.
resourceful.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's dedication there, isn't it? Is it? I mean, as a naive question, like, is there an audition process for special effects guys? Like, like for actors, like, is it like
Yeah.
this is we've got some ideas, we're going to pass it to all these special effects guys, whoever comes up with the best one,
Oh,
or so, I mean that
there,
kind of thing, or
yeah, there's that to different degrees in a couple different ways. Like sometimes for a film, producers will hire. It's like anybody doing like work on their house. They'll get three comparison bids from different house painters.
hmm.
But in this instance, sometimes they'll say, "We're gonna give each one of you, $10 and make us X. Let's see what your perspective is of what we're describing to you." That's happened only a couple times
Hmm.
in the past. And then if you're an employee and you're just starting, there's sort of an audition process when you start. Like for me, it was, you know, being the guy taking dinner orders and helping other people and sweeping the floor. And it's like, the obvious questions the employer has is what's his attitude and does he jive with the other people? Does he fit in? Is he positive? Is he looking to help? Is this guy a potential asset? And then sometimes those jobs are, you're hired for a 2 week period and then you're reevaluated.
Right.
Or for me, I was offered 4 weeks and that was it for the job. And then at the end of that time period, you sit down with the person and say, do you like it here? Do we like you? Is this working? If not, you know, goodbye. We only promised you 2 weeks. You got it.
Wow,
Um, and
brutal.
then if you click, away you go. I had somebody who worked for me for over 20 some years.
Wow.
Started when he was 24. And the only reason he's not working here now is he moved out of the country. Otherwise, he'd still be here probably. You know.
Sweet. That's
Yeah, so
crazy.
you get in a groove with people and you speak the same artistic language and you
Yeah.
jive with them personally. It makes a difference as to how the workday goes and what the end result is. Because like when we're on set, it's 12 to 16 hours that you're stuck with people, and you want to be stuck with people that you enjoy hanging out with as opposed to people that suck. So
Exactly. Like all walks of life. Yeah.
yeah, so if I'm in charge and somebody sucks after the 2 weeks, we're already, after after a week, we're already looking for somebody to else to consider. It's
Sweet.
true.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah, brutal. But yeah, this is business, isn't it? This is it.
Yeah,
Um,
but just the group thing. I mean, it's really a collaborative industry, and being in a effect shop it's a collaborative environment, and sometimes people need an extra pair of hands or need some help, or sometimes you're teaming two people up to work on something together.
Yeah.
And if they're antisocial and a pain in the ass, it's not worth it. I mean, one guy worked best if he worked at home and we dropped off stuff to him at home.
Okay.
And we didn't have to deal with him and his issues, and we got great work. And he could work in an environment that he felt, happiest in. So that worked out really well. We've worked off and on with him for a long time.
Oh,
But
okay.
everybody's different, so you try and find everybody's language and how they work.
Yeah. So start like Starman, Return of the Living Dead. Um,
Oh,
I mean, after like Thriller, like you kind of never really look back, did you? To be fair, I mean, it's like
no,
when you look at your work.
I dropped out of school and I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And then Rick said, we'd love to keep you around, but we don't have anything lined up. So for 3 months, there was nothing going on.
All right.
My parents were not happy. And then Rick got asked to work on Starman and then hired me to do research and development for the skins for the baby and the translucency in the veins and the lighting and stuff like that. And then I just
Sweet.
rolled over into the show. And then after that one, he had something continuously for, another 3.5 years. So you just went from show to show to show. After about a year or so, it's like, okay, I think I'm kind of here for a
Yeah.
while, and you're in the groove with a bunch of people and you're the ones, you guys are the ones always doing this stuff. So it's
Sweet.
pretty fun. It was a small group too, so it was really an enjoyable experience. Very much a family.
Oh, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
what in those earlier films? What would you say was like the steepest challenge that you've kind of faced? Like from you've like literally gone from student to working on like proper movies. Like, what was your kind of biggest challenge in that period, you reckon?
I think it was when I was asked to do something myself for a movie.
Right.
And and doing like the half corpse from Eternal Living Dead. I didn't have any experience doing anything substantial in animatronics
So
at all.
that was you on your own with that was
Yeah,
your wow.
that was my first like solo thing, and I was working for Rick during the day on Cocoon, and I got approached by the producers of Return of the Living Dead 2 weeks before this thing had to shoot, and they asked me if I could build it for them. Dan O'Bannon asked me if I could build it for him, and the producer Graham Henderson was kind of like, I don't know what Dan's thinking because you're 21, and if you screw this up, you know, I'm going to make sure you don't work in this town. It was like that cliche sort
No
of
way. Wow.
thing.
That's
Uh,
massive pressure for you at your so early on as well then.
it was really motivational for me. I got so mad. I was like, I'm going to make this guy eat shit, and I only have 2 weeks to do it. And then when I was leaving, they said, if you are going to do the half corpse, you also have to do the split dogs too. They don't shoot in 2 weeks, but you have to take those on as well.
Oh
I was
man.
like, at that point, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm so mad. I'm gonna just show you up. And then I hired a friend to help me. I sculpted it, molded it, cast the foam, assembled it. I did the animatronics for the head, which were so basic. I mean, there's a thimble for the eye left to right. I built a rig with some brass stock to these two eyeballs. And I was casting the bottoms of cups that had curves in them to make sockets for the eyeballs and for the joints in the spine. And I got
Jeez.
a plastic skeleton from a medical supply company and replaced the head and neck and then mechanized the hands. A guy named Bill Sturgeon did the joints for one hand and mechanized all of the other, thank God. Um, and then it was just beat the clock. And I remember Scott Russler, the guy that my friend who was helping me, um, when we had to deliver it the morning it was supposed to shoot, I was still trying to figure out how to do eyelid mechanisms in it with a little piece of brass tube and a piece of fishing line. And he's like, Tony, we got to go. We got to go to set. It's the, it's time to get everything in the car. So we drove it out, and I asked for that day off from work and the next day. And Rick and Greg Cannom were really cool and said, sure. And then we just focused on the performance and trying to get everything we could out of it. And then it was over,
Is that
you
it?
know. And it was like, but the day that I delivered it, Graham Henderson, the producer that had scared the hell out of me, um, looked down at it and invited me into his office and said, "Have a seat." And he said, "It looks really good." And I was like, "Oh, thank God!" I didn't know what he was going to say. And then he said, "What would you like your screen credit to read?"
Ah,
And my eyes bugged out because this was like the first thing I'd done, and I was going to be acknowledged for it. And I realized that at that moment that Graham was doing his job. You know, if I was going to flake on him, better to see in the beginning than wait 2 weeks and then be screwed. You
yeah.
know, and he was a really nice guy who just was protecting his movie and making sure that he got what he needed. So I really admire him for the way that he did it. Actually, at the time I was so mad, but I think it was really smart of him. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, depending on the individual and the personality of that person, they could have literally have just bottled it, but like used it as motivation. So
Yeah,
yeah, worked all right. Awesome.
yeah. And if he scared me away, then he knew he needed to get somebody who could actually do it. So,
Yeah.
and he still had 2 weeks instead of me just not showing up on the day.
Would you have had more time, do you think, or was that just something just to
No, that
put?
it was literally on the shooting schedule. They had
Was
actually
it?
started shooting the movie already, and everything was locked in.
Yeah.
Uh, and they were able to give me 2 weeks. Um, and and then I was there for a couple days. And but it was like Thriller. It was like one of those experiences where I'm in it, I'm doing this stuff, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the experience. So it
Yeah.
just cemented more that I just wanted to keep doing this.
Awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I interviewed John Philbin a bit ago,
Oh,
and yeah,
okay.
did you get to meet him on set at all? Because it was explaining like his side of the filming experience.
Yeah. My experience was great. All of it was great. The worst part for me was being in a outside a window under this tent that was just pouring rain, and I'm puppeteering this zombie coming through a window to grab Brian Peck, and obviously you're soaking wet and trying to puppeteer. That was the worst experience. Dan was super cool with me. He was great with giving me the direction for what he wanted. I had already met him prior to being on set, because originally he wanted me to make some teeth for an actress, and that's how I met him, and that's how he saw what I had, was able to do, and that's
Right.
why he thought of me like a month or so later. Um, so my relationship with him was the same one where I had come in trying to help him make some teeth. So there was just a very casual, mutual level of respect and conversation. I know some people it wasn't that way. Um, I didn't
I,
really experience. I didn't really experience that. And when we were puppeteering the Half Corpse, I had Bill Stout, the production manager or the production designer. I'm sorry, on the spine, pulling the lever that made the thing go left and right. And then Brian Peck, who was one of the actors, he was doing the jaw and the dialogue. Um, since he's an actor, it made the most sense.
yeah.
And then I'm under the table with my hand in the head, and I'm doing the head and the eyes and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Um, so on set, when it was shooting, I was sitting on the floor talking to Dan's knees while he stood next to the table, and he's basically talking to a group of us working, and the people that he was already working with and respectful of. So I never saw anything where it was antagonistic or anything like that, or cranky even.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah.
Did you kind of like bend his ear a little bit, from your experience of Alien as well with Dan about it? Did you explain, oh, me doing this, it's kind of like down to you, writing that film you did.
Yeah, I don't think I told him till afterwards that that was the film that got me into it, and that I was so excited just to meet him, you know, and then to be able to work with him was amazing. And we kind of became friends after
Awesome.
that. And every once in a while they'd do a public appearance kind of thing or a convention thing, and Dan would actually show up. And I'd make sure to be part of those so that I had a chance to talk to him some more.
Sweet.
Because I really liked him. I really liked him a lot.
Oh wow, yeah. Because I asked John Philbin about that. There was rumors that they'll go in like Toby Hooper potentially and all this behind the scenes and that. But he says, well, he weren't sure because that's a lot of politics with studio stuff, and they don't really know much about that. But that was a rumor that was going around. So I don't know if that was true or not. But obviously, Dan O'Bannon did an incredible job anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
but obviously, yeah, Toby Hooper, there would have been a different vision altogether.
Oh,
So
completely. Yeah.
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 So you've gone on from working with Rick Baker, and then not long after, you kind of get involved with another god of special effects in Stan Winston on Aliens.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what are you thinking at this point? Like from basically like working from Rick Baker going to then Stan Winston, and to throw in the mix a bit James Cameron as well. Like so, like
Yeah.
you're still young. You're surrounded by all
Yeah.
this unreal talent. What are you even thinking at this point? Working on
I,
Alien.
I was kind of a little oblivious.
Oh no.
I was just super excited to work on Aliens because I loved Alien, you know, and again, I didn't care in what capacity. Things were slow at Rick's when Stan was starting Aliens, and I said I would love to work on that for like just a week or two, just to say that I worked on it, just because that original meant a lot to me. And Rick's like, well, there's really nothing going on here, you know. So I talked to Stan, and Stan was finishing Invaders from Mars, and all his main crew was still on that. So Stan hired me, and in the beginning, it was me, Stan, and Jim in the front of the shop, um,
Wow.
in the makeup room, and the conference room, in the office, or Stan's office. And we were each in a different room, just yelling across the hallway to each other while we were doing stuff, talking about ideas and stuff. And I was sculpting the chest burster, and Jim was figuring out the queen, and he was like taping together, those wooden posable figures of humans that artists use to figure out poses.
Yeah.
He was like taping two of those together, trying to figure out if he could get two people in a suit. And he'd already done sketches, and Stan was in his office with the sketches that Jim did, and then he was doing variations on that and other ideas based on this two-man in a suit kind of concept. So for several weeks, it was just the three of us on it. And then as Invaders wore down and was wrapping up, Stan's regular crew became available, and then the shop just sort of filled up with alien stuff. And literally, like a box came from England with the original suit in it, from the
Wow.
original film. So I was just like, this is amazing.
What? So
Uh,
was that used in the movie? Did they ever put it in a scene or anything? The original suit, or like just a little? I know because obviously there are different mobility wise, the difference and stuff. But was there anything in
yeah,
background of the original suit or?
no, it's the original suit from the original film, and it smelled really bad. Smelled really bad. So it's pretty obvious it'd been used.
Brilliant. Yeah, still love it
Um,
though.
yeah, but it looked awesome. I mean, most of the parts were like, just latex rubber sewn to fabric and stuff like that. So we learned a lot, just
Yeah.
sort of laying it out and analyzing it and figuring out what could be done in foam and what could be done in urethane and what could be done in fabric. Um, and just kind of went from there. But Jim was in the shop all the time figuring stuff out. Like when we had the design for the Queen further along, we actually built a mock-up of it in the parking lot off of a camera crane, with cardboard and wood and foam core. And we covered it all in garbage bags and had like fishing poles and ski poles, puppeteer stuff. And we actually put two stunt guys in it and filmed it. And Jim was figuring out the different angles that he wanted to shoot stuff at, and how to make it work, and how to frame out the crane above it and stuff like that, and make this make sense, which was awesome. And then when the suits were being built, he was in the shop just mocking up other shot ideas he had with guys in the suits, like walking on the ground, but having somebody like laying on the ground, like they're on the phone, looking like they're leaning against a wall. So it looks like the alien is going horizontally across the wall, coming up to him, and just all this stuff that he was. It was just so cool to see how imaginative he was and how he didn't feel limited by anything, but it was all about figuring out how to make things work and
Yeah.
make things believable in camera. And there were no visual effects. There's compositing and stuff like that, and the miniatures, obviously.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that show, Stan's guys did the miniature queen, sculpted that, and then those pieces were of the queen's body were molded, and those molds went over to another shop, which was Doug Beswick Productions. And then I went over with them, and then I was like the art director for redoing the queen and doing the cosmetic side of it. And then they brought in a model builder, Jim Belahovic, to make the parts for the power loader. Then I was molding those, and then it was all about figuring out these little miniature versions of the queen and the power loader and Sigourney. And then we had a small crew there, and Doug's a mechanical genius, so he was hired to do, and he'd worked on Terminator, and did the
Oh.
stop motion for that as well. And so that everybody was familiar with everybody else. So it was just very much a very collaborative experience the whole way through. But once everything went to Doug's, and Stan's regular crew went off to England and to shoot the movie and then build the full-size queen for real. So we were building the little one and figuring stuff out, and then we were sending them faxes, because that's all you had. We would like tape a photo to a piece of paper and run it through the fax machine and say, here's how we're breaking out the design of the head with foam latex versus fiberglass. So this part moves and this part can stay lightweight and blah, blah, blah. And it was just a lot of back and forth like that.
Jeez.
Yeah,
So,
but it was fun.
I mean, what was it ever like a day that like a day that was in particular that was pushed to your limits, where there was a lot of stress involved, and you was like, "Fucking hell, this is stressing me out big time." Like, it's like, because I can imagine James Cameron being quite an intense guy, is very like detailed, and
Yeah.
was he
I
kind of
No, because like all the pre-production stuff, we weren't on set, and I didn't go to set when it started filming, so I didn't see any of that stuff.
right,
Um, it was all problem solving based
right,
when we were
okay,
there. So it's like if something was stressful, it was stressful for all of us, and we were all trying to figure out a solution together. And
yeah.
he and Stan were our ringleaders basically, and they obviously had a great relationship with Terminator prior to that. So it was a great environment to work in.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, just to be involved in that's incredible. I mean, going on, you mentioned Greg Cannom's,
Oh yeah.
was it Return of the Living Dead? And did he purposely pick you then for Lost Boys? Like, because you was part of
Uh,
his team on Lost Boys?
well, I had worked for Greg on Cocoon.
Yeah,
Greg Cannom and Rick Baker did Cocoon. We did it out of Rick's shop.
yeah.
And then I don't remember how things played out, but for a while when it was slow at Rick's after that, I rented out part of Rick's shop and I was doing art stuff. And then Greg Cannom got Lost Boys and decided to do it in Rick's shop. And I said, can
Right.
I still rent my little corner in the back and keep doing my weird stuff? And then I slowly got pulled into the show. Greg already had a crew,
Right.
and but there was so much to do, and there was so much to figure out. He started because he knew me and knew what I was able to do. Asked if I would help him with certain things, and then I ended up sculpting a bunch of stuff and molding some things. So I got to do the makeup on the little boy once he turns, and I did the feet that are hanging from the ceiling when all the vampires are in
Oh,
the.
man. Yeah.
Because I had done, I think that's where it started because I had done some feat for the aliens in Cocoon where they were supposed to go floating by somebody. You know, you see legs go through the shot, and it was just this puppet rig. And I built the legs for that. And he's like, "Oh, these are kind of the same thing. Could you do some vampire legs?" And then I did the stunt double for Kiefer for the fight scene. And then there's a guy who melts in the bathtub. And Sean McEnroe was sculpting the face, and Greg asked me to do a hand to add to that. So I just kept getting thrown in to do stuff, but I was still doing my art in the corner when I wasn't helping Greg. So I was totally happy. And Lost
Yeah.
Boys was just such a good movie. You know, what
Oh,
could you?
it's easily my favorite horror film. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's such a unique movie. I
yeah,
mean, I've heard that they're on about frigging revamping it and all this, but like, they should no, just please leave it alone. No, please,
yeah.
it's one of them.
Do they could do something in that vein, but I think to try and redo it would be a mistake. You know.
Yeah, 100%.
The
So,
art direction, everything about it is so unique. I didn't really, because I wasn't really on the crew. I only went to set one day. There's a day where Kiefer's hand reaches out from the cave into the light and catches on fire. And I had cast my own hand and molded it and made a skin for a mechanism that somebody else did. So I went on set to make sure that everything looked right cosmetically there and just to take in the sets and everything that had been built and the attention to detail. It was you knew then it was like a one of a kind of thing. Whether it was going to succeed or not, no one had any idea, but it was definitely something super unique that stood on its own.
oh,
So for
definitely.
that same reason, you to try and redo it is just would be a shame.
No, definitely. I mean, obviously, the vampires, it was a unique style for a vampire as well, like an 80s rock makeover
Yeah,
from your
yeah,
traditional, hunky guys from,
yeah,
1800s or whatever. So, um,
yeah.
so
And all the
how did they approach like making, the obviously faces and like what did they give them to work with then as regards to this is the style that we want and how did they approach that?
Well, the main question or the main goal that Greg was given was make them sexy. And to be quite honest, the vibe in the makeup effects community at the time was everybody doing makeup effects wanted to at least look like they wanted to be a rock and roller.
Right.
Long, big long hair and leather jackets and chains or band t-shirts and one guy always came in with like goth makeup well before the thing called goths existed to
Okay.
work every day. There's just a very unique vibe to the makeup community, and I feel like the Lost Boys there's a little bit of that, and then it's glammed up a lot
Some
as
big
well.
hair,
So
isn't there?
yeah, so the big hair and all that stuff was super familiar, and then the wardrobe design and all that. I mean, that's really all Joel Schumacher and his wardrobe department just going for it. I mean, Alex Winter's jacket with all the fishing lures and everything hanging on him. I mean, that's stuff nobody would think of.
Ah,
Um, but it worked, and all of
yeah.
them balanced each other out really, really well. But figuring out the hairstyles for everybody was a challenge too.
Yeah, I mean,
But like
no, sorry.
all those guys, that was their real hair. So they actually look like rock and roll. I mean, that was just the way people looked. If you were in your 20s, a
Yeah.
lot of people looked like they were in a band and they couldn't play a musical instrument to save their lives. So
So the 80s rock thing then, that was that actually down as like we want to this is the vibe, or was that come up literally by you guys then? Was it like how do we
I
approach
think it
this?
was I think it was Greg trying to make them look attractive in the face and trying to angle things. And then
Right.
Joel Schumacher, with his art background, trying to elevate everything further than what we would consider normal.
Yeah.
And and he knew that he was going to put them in their own little bubble, this own weird world where all that stuff would work. And um, I think Joel Schumacher is really the one that created the vibe for the whole film. And then I remember them hiring gang members to come in and graffiti stuff so that it looked accurate. And then they would take that fabric and cut it up and make clothes out of it. You know, they would have them graffiti on canvas and stuff like that. They were experimenting with all this stuff, trying to be hip, and but a hip that was not tied to current reality as much, because these people were vampires and didn't care. They were content with expressing themselves however they wanted to look. That was sort of my takeaway watching Joel work and watching the art department work too.
Yeah, he's the master of all genres, isn't he, Joel Schumacher? He honestly is.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I mean, I spoke to Keith Coogan. He worked with him on Cousins, and
Oh,
like this was the film after Lost Boys, and then you look at obviously Flatliners, then the Batman films, which he was part of as well. And it was like, yeah, this man's career is so eclectic. It's insane,
yeah.
really, isn't it? You know, his vision for different styles and that is, it's, you know,
Yeah.
almost unique, isn't it? I suppose. So, um, I mean, there were some badass death scenes in Lost Boys, like, you know,
Yeah, there's some
for,
great stuff. Really fun.
yeah. Did they let you just go nuts? It's like, yeah, what? We haven't really got it written down. What would be a cool death scene for a vampire, say? Like, did they just let you go crazy or?
I think everything was in the script, and then they let Greg Cannom push it further, and he had really crazy ideas. Like there's a whole section of the guy dissolving in the bathtub that you don't even see.
Wow.
Um, that was really cool visually, but to Joel, the story stopped so that you could see the stuff melting under the water. So he's like, I just want it to be more violent and more explosive, and then lead to everything in the room exploding. So a lot of stuff got trimmed down, but like the vampire exploding, death by stereo, you know, that was all mapped out by Greg from the get go as to how that was going to be achieved.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, it was everything was very well thought out, I thought. And I think that Joel's background was he was a window dresser in New York for big department stores.
Oh,
So
right.
so he would create whole scenarios in a window, complete, and do the makeup and the hair and the wardrobe and the environment and then the product and then the environment of the cubicle of the window shape as well, and make it like this sort of you'd almost call it like an immersive environment today. But he was just so thorough and meticulous. I feel like he just transferred all that over to filmmaking, and a movie like Lost Boys gave him a chance to really show off
Yeah.
what he was visually capable of doing.
Oh, it's a stunning piece of work. It's a film that was just timeless and everything about it, soundtrack, everything. It's just
Yeah,
almost a
yeah.
perfect movie, isn't it? I mean, like, yeah, it's such a badass film. So, um, I mean, going on to like, I've got to mention the Blob. Like that's a movie that was big as growing up. Like, I watch it quite a lot still now. I'm still my jaw is dropping with the practical effects, man. I mean, I think that and the thing. I feel like for practical effects is it's up there, man. I mean, it's.
Wow,
I swear to
that's
God,
that's nice to hear.
I feel like the Blob is just what it's still a film that folks. I think just because the title is the Blob, it's almost like forget how much
Yeah,
that. It's like, you know what I mean? When you actually sit and watch it, because we covered it on our episode, and there was a couple of my mates who I do it with had never seen it, and we did it up with The Fly. So it was they were just blown away, like still how
that's great.
like the effects. You know what I mean? The first time watch. So what was this? Would you say this is the first film you? Was you like taking lead on the effects for this, or because Nick
Yeah,
Benson was
yeah.
he like doing another team as well, or
There was when it started, it was actually going to be Greg Cannom
right?
doing the makeup effects and Lyle Conway doing the blob effects. And then there were a couple extra effects in the show that Greg didn't really have any interest in, like the projectionist on the ceiling.
Yeah,
Um, so I was going to do those and just sort of supplement Greg. And then Greg had a conflict and had to leave the show. They asked if I would take over Greg's thing and find somebody else to replace me for the little stuff. Well, I'm like, just put it all under one roof so that the aesthetic, because what I was worried about is things would look different. It's got to look cohesive the whole way through the movie. So if we're going to bring those people in to do that, just put them in the same building with
Yeah.
me, and then everything will look accurate the whole way through. So, but I was 24, so they were hesitant that I would choke because of the volume of work. And then, so what they did is they got a giant warehouse right off Hollywood Boulevard. And half of it was Lyle Conway's Creature Shop, and half of it was Tony Gardner's makeup effect shop. And Lyle was there in case I needed help with anything. He was
Right.
the adult in the room. And then there was a visual effects supervisor as well.
Right.
And I had never run a whole crew before, like of this scale. I had over 10 people working for me, and some of them, a lot of them were my friends. Obviously, some people were new, and some were 18, and some were 50. It was just this range of talent and age groups and backgrounds. And this was my first experience. And a couple weeks into it, I was like, I love this. I just love the problem solving. And we were designing stuff and doing sculptures, and you could have so many different people try different things all at the same time. It just felt so efficient. And the shop was funded by the production company. So that wasn't even like on my radar as to like cost. I knew I had a budget I had to work in, obviously, and I couldn't just do anything. And we were very well aware of that. And my wife, Cindy, was our production manager for the Blob shop. That's the first time we worked together. And she managed the money really well and was really good about being able to gauge where things were moving and where expenditures were happening. So that background felt really solid. So I could really sort of stick my neck out. And in the end, I want to say a day or two into filming, they actually let Lyle Conway go and asked me to take over a bunch of Lyle's stuff. But
Jeez.
but my thinking was I'll just take over the Blob where the Blob interacts with people, like Paul and the Blob, Donovan Leitch getting blobbed.
Okay.
Anything where there's a person in it, I'll do. But like moving on the ceiling and dropping, that's all still Lyle's crew. And another guy named Mike Fink came in to help supervise that. Lyle and Bill Corso kind of set everything up. Bill Corso was still there, and then this other guy came in. So we were both moving in parallel paths, but we ended up taking on more work as we were moving forward. And it actually worked to our advantage because we were able to better control how successful the makeup effects were, because we were also controlling the blob element during that. Like for the projectionist on the ceiling,
Yeah.
we sculpted the whole body and everything into a blob form and did this giant panel that they could drop into the ceiling with this puppet in it. And then the blob guys did the extension of that with some mechanical tentacles on top of that. So there was a nice overlap. Same with Erica Aleniak in the car. We did a whole body that caves in and all that. But when the tentacles come out,
Yeah.
the tentacles were Mark Satrakian did the mechanism. He was part of the blob crew, but we were puppeteering his stuff coming out of our stuff. So it's like
Jeez.
it was, but we were all in the same building, so it was really easy to like test stuff and figure it out. So
Yeah.
it made it. I think that's really what made everything possible, is just the fact that we could all communicate really well, and we'd sat down every day and had a meeting, like where are we and what else
Yeah.
do we need to do? It sort of went off the rails a little bit in the end, where Chuck Russell wanted some more visual impact earlier on in the movie, and he wanted to add some stuff. And I suggested the blob coming up through the can man's neck and then the foam coming out of his mouth, because Chuck just had it where the blanket's revealed and stuff's still happening. So I was like, we'll make it look like the blob's still under there the first time you see it, so there's more suspense. And because we were building a dead body of the guy anyhow, let's put some bladders in it and do the same thing on the actor. Easy enough to tie in, but that wasn't part of the schedule. All this additional stuff was added after we wrapped shooting. So it just meant there was an extension of the work, and it was a challenge to still get people, have them available to shoot. But then when we locked in on that, it was basically like an all-nighter on a soundstage, shooting a bunch of insert stuff to add to the movie. And it was literally all night, like people sleeping on the floor
Jeez,
in
that's
the
mad.
front until it's time to shoot stuff. But we were all, most of us were in our 20s. We're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So,
What would you? So obviously, again, there's some incredible set pieces like the phone box, the kitchen
uh-huh,
sink, all
yeah.
those. Do you have like a favorite? And then as well, what was the trickiest out of the set pieces like involved with the blob?
I think the trickiest one was also my favorite. It was Donovan Leitch getting blobbed and dissolving, because it's the first one you see and it has to be impactful.
Yeah.
And but we had to do the blob element for it. The nice thing was production put it last in the shooting schedule, so we could take all of our knowledge that we gained through pre-production and through shooting and have this thing happen at the very end of the schedule. That was the most important thing in the script, that also happens first on screen so that it could look its best.
Right.
Um, and we figured out how to do the blob full size and be manageable over someone's body. We built a miniature of Donovan and Shawnee. And we built a miniature blob. And we figured out a bunch of stuff building that miniature that helped us with the larger scale one, being able to keep it translucent and have colors run through it while it's moving. Because again, there was no, like, you couldn't go in and digitally add veins. So we were putting layers of fabric that were blue and red and pulling them over each other in a vein pattern. And when they crossed over each other, they'd go purple and then go
Fucking
back to
hell.
their color. And that's a layer on top of a fiberglass shell that's over the actor, who's underneath that with an air tank. And
That's
then
mad.
on top of all that is a blob quilt, the style of which Lyle's crew already figured out. That's like the surface layer that we could then pull so that there's a sense of movement. And then we had a really super gung-ho actor in Donovan Leitch who was willing to let us, pull all this stuff literally against his face. And then at a certain point, we replaced his head with a puppet head, and there's different stages of that.
Right.
But a lot of people today don't know that, like the wide shot where you see both the blob going out the window and the mass of it with Donovan in it, and all of Shawnee pulling his arm. They don't realize that wide shot is puppets on a miniature set, So,
Jeez.
um, so stuff like that tells me we were successful. So it was the most
Oh yeah.
stressful to figure out, but it was the most rewarding because a lot of people still haven't figured out how some of it was done.
No.
So,
A bit like yeah. So the kitchen sink, like obviously that's it's not like pull the bloke in and then it's kind of camera pans away. You're literally seeing getting forced into the pipe, into the sink,
yeah,
and the system. I mean, that's my favorite set piece, 100%. It is just
that's great.
insane. I swear to God. I mean, like it's just the camera doesn't give away anything. It's like for its time, it's still incredible practical effects. I mean, was that a tough shot to do, or
Well,
to set up?
yes and no. I mean, all the actors were great, so that made it easy. And Pete Von Schally did storyboards for all these scenes, so we knew what they needed to see in different shots, so we could rehearse them ahead of time. Like this shot is literally inside the sink, looking up, and you're seeing arms and legs going down, and they're alive in foreground, and people appearing. So we would mock it up on set and have an animatronic leg and whatever, and shoot it. So we go on set super organized, know what we need, and it's really all thanks to the storyboards because everybody had the same visual point of reference. The beginning of that shot, the stunt guy, Lyle actually did. Lyle's crew, I think the couple days when he first went on set, shot this stuff where the blob goes up and over his head, and they did a bunch of reverse photography onto him with layers of stuff being pulled away. So it looks like this thing's shooting out, and then more stuff's jumping on top of it. And then Bill Corso and Lyle did this dummy head of him, and it's the real actor leaning over the sink, but his head is tipped down further, and there's a fake head that gets pulled in, and he just gets pulled. He's on a harness, he gets pulled with it. So it looks like his head is collapsing into this hole, you know? And then special effects did some pipes with, I think it was lead that they could put balloons in, you know, not a balloon, but they could make the pipe look like it's ballooning with pressure and not burst the pipe. And then we did all the stuff with the hands and the feet in the sink going down the drain. And then we had a foot that was swollen and the shoe pops off in the end. And then that foot like just pops down. But we were literally following the storyboards as a guide. We didn't deviate one bit, and neither did Chuck on set. So because he'd figured it all out already and had Pete draw everything for him. And thank God they had that, because otherwise we could have wasted a lot of time. You know?
Yeah. Is that a big thing for the special effects guys and storyboards? Because I saw you some of your videos with Chucky things. You're using a lot with the storyboards. Is that a massive like thing for you? That helps a lot where you've got that guidance.
Yeah, like for Chucky, it's crucial. Like any action scene with him, we required them to give us storyboards, and then we would rehearse, because each one of those shots in a storyboard is a specific rig for a puppet. You know, this rig where he's pushing the umbrella and the pole comes off the umbrella, and the arms are loose jointed and they're attached, and it pulls out the top of his head to puppeteer his body, and then somebody else has one out the waist. We don't have to worry about the fingers, you know, and that's for the profile shot. And then when we go to the driver's POV, it's a different rig with nothing coming out of the top of the head. Everything goes up into the body. And then we have animatronic fingers on the hands that are controlled by someone wearing a rig that allows the fingers to match what he's doing when he has these, we called them the power gloves on. So it's like you would pick off each one of those shots, and in between shooting those, you'd be re-rigging the puppet for the rig that works for the next shot. So having some sort of organization, it was the only way to make your day, because it takes time.
Yeah.
You know?
God, I can imagine. That's crazy. But at least you've got something to go by, so that's massive then, isn't it? So
huge. And we would shoot our rehearsals, even for Chuck Russell on the Blob. We would shoot on VHS. Here's our video test of you know, Paul getting pulled out of the window or whatever, and then we would get notes from Chuck Russell, and then we would go back and we would change stuff if we needed to, and then show up on set with what they required.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. So going on to, I've got to mention Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. So Sam Raimi is obviously a hands-on director, like probably similar to James Cameron. Like, you know, so how did he approach you for the movies, and also what changed the tone of the two films compared to the original, like for a bit more slapstick comedy horror from, like, you know, so how did that all come about?
Well, I think Bruce and Rob and Sam are all Three Stooges fans, and they love slapstick. So I think that's just part of who they are.
Right.
Evil Dead 2, I came on board as part of Doug Beswick's crew, and we did um, this big head that comes through a window and this tree branch that tries to feed Bruce into the head. And then there's a bunch of little human heads on the big head that comes through it was a door, actually, sorry. Um, and then we built the miniature set for the stop motion dance and the puppet for that
Yeah.
at Doug's, and then Doug animated all of that there. So our time on set for that, I mean, I think with all the tree branch and the giant apple head was probably maybe 3 or 4 days, and that was my
Wow.
intro. That was my intro to Sam, and I just really liked him, and he liked that I was positive and upbeat. I remember him saying that. Um,
Oh, that's
and
nice.
then yeah, and then I did Darkman was next.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then, got to know
part
him
of it.
better, obviously, and had a lot of fun. And did a lot of stuff I'd never done before, which was really challenging and fun. And then when Army of Darkness came around, um, he asked me to do all the stuff on Bruce and Sheila and all the stuff on Evil Sheila and Evil Bruce. So basically the main characters, makeup effects, and then KMB was going to handle like the Army of the Dead. Um, but anything on Bruce, whether his face stretched long or he was a skeleton, he's a zombie and he gets caught set on fire and now he's a skeleton puppet. We would do all that kind of stuff. But the tone of the film was in the script, for sure. And I think you get obvious hints of Three Stooges, like when Bruce is in the graveyard and the skeletons are coming out of the ground and they're boinking him in the eye and just doing literal Three Stooges bits, you know.
Yeah.
But those guys love that sense of humor, and Ash is very much of that same mindset. So I think it's just naturally where it goes with them.
Yeah, it's crazy how they've come up with that as a because it's just almost it's just a remake from the original, really, isn't it? So it's like, but going from the first one, which was like a video nasty and it was like some brutal horror and stuff, to then be like,
Yeah,
yeah, we should do a second one. Let's do like a slapstick Three Stooges version. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did they even
yeah.
get? Because
I
then that then obviously Bruce Campbell's performance is completely different as well. So
yeah,
like changing everything to how
yeah,
Ash is now. Yeah,
yeah. And then there was the short film too that they did prior to the official Evil Dead, the where they went and got money from doctors and stuff. I think they had like $40,000 and did like the
I've not
short
seen.
version of Evil Dead, and then
All right, I've
use
never
that with.
seen that.
Yeah, you've seen it?
No, I don't think I have. Like, not a short version.
Yeah.
No, I've not seen that one. No.
No, and then that was turned into a feature, and that was Evil Dead, and then Evil Dead 2 was the one that went more comedic, and I think the fact that Bruce Campbell's character is supposed to be a little bit insane or thinks he's going insane.
Bit
I think,
cabin fever, so to speak.
yeah, I feel like that fed into the whole let's go crazy with stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of walls gushing, 50 gallons of blood per every couple seconds. I mean, that's pretty over the top, regardless of what you're looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. But what was the kind of most technically challenging out of the things that you worked on?
For Army of Darkness, it was probably the skeletal version of Evil Ash because we had a skeleton from the waist up that had to swing a sword around and fight, fight Bruce
Yeah, I love
Campbell.
that.
So it's like, how do you pull that off and not make something how do you make something that's going to be durable enough to stand up to that, and but also not have rods on it and be puppeteered in any way, have it all be self-contained
Yeah.
machinery, and you only have the width of a skeleton as the area you get to work in to build your machine. So the fact that he wore armor was great, and then we did like big wads of burned skin like on his elbows and anywhere where he needed more mass for like an elbow joint or shoulder joint, we would have more skin on the skeleton there. Um, But and then there were the heads where the top pops open or the eyes roll and stuff like that. And again, it was all pretty much storyboarded out what Sam wanted to see. Sam's storyboards sometimes are very simplistic, but again, just to have a visual point of reference as to how he perceives it and what angle he's going to shoot it at, you kind of know where you can hide stuff.
Yeah.
So that's always super helpful. And he said he'd never show the skeleton puppet below the waist. If he got that wide, he'd go to stop motion. So things were done to help make our job easier, but that was definitely the most complicated one.
Wow. Um, I mean, like you've worked with like not only some of the greatest directors, but some of the greatest actors going. Like one of my comedy heroes is Jim Carrey.
Oh,
You've worked a lot with Jim Carrey.
yeah, a couple times. Yeah.
Is that um is that just by coincidence or is that just
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally like, oh, it's you. Oh, how you doing? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. At the beginning, it was all coincidence. And then in the more recent years, they would ask for me specifically, which is really nice.
Yeah. Is what's he like putting makeup on? Is he dead professional or is he literally just like prattling about or like
Oh, he was great. I mean, when we did Bad Batch, I had to do him up as like a hermit with hair extensions and a fake nose and fake teeth and a whole like gross sunburn, dirty look. He's shirtless. And we'd be out under a tent, me and another guy just airbrushing and doing whatever. And he was there. He was really invested in how he looked all the time, and he wanted to make sure it looked the best it possibly could. If he felt like he'd touched something and maybe moved it, he would call it out and say, check my nose. I might have taken some makeup off or
right.
whatever. So super professional to work with. The first time I worked with him was on a Fairley Brothers comedy, which was me, myself, and Irene. And it was all jokey shtick. And it was the first time I met him, and I just, super. I didn't have much to do with him directly, but I didn't really know him, so I was very, like 3 steps away. And then now, with stuff that's happened, like on the TV show Kidding or whatever recently. Well, it's not so recently anymore, I guess. Um,
Great
he,
show.
yeah,
Yeah, great show.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we'd be doing his makeup, and he'd be looking in the mirror, watching us do it, and analyzing stuff, and he would say, "Well, yesterday you didn't do this." He was so on top of it, so impressive, so
Wow.
particular. Yeah, really, really great to work with.
And you was on you involved in Dumb and Dumber 2 as well, and
Yeah,
Ace Ventura 2. Was it?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So there's quite
yeah.
a
A
lot
couple things.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So so your first introduction to Chucky, was it like Seed of Chucky? Was that the first film you was involved with the Chucky
Yeah,
franchise?
that was the first film when David Kirshner was gonna pitch Bride of Chucky to the studios. I had already met him on Hocus Pocus, and we'd done an animatronic cat, and we did a zombie on Doug Jones. And David asked me if I could build basically like a wedding cake topper that was Chucky holding his bride in his arms under an arch at almost full size, like as a tabletop like display about 3 feet across, that he could take into his pitch meetings to pitch the concept for Bride of Chucky. But he said, we have an ongoing relationship with somebody else. If they don't want to do it, we'd love to have you do it. But if they say yes, obviously, um, you know, we'll meet up again down the road someday on something else.
Yeah.
And someone else did it. And then when Seed came up, that's when they pulled me in for the first time, and I had to recreate scarred Chucky, regular Tiffany, and then they had a baby in Bride that you see as an infant, and we had to figure out what the adolescent, the teenage version of Glenn was going to be. And we had 3 months to build everything, crate it up, and then we went to Romania to shoot it.
Wow.
And it was it was insane. Just to say yes to that was insane. But that was the first time. Learned a lot, and uh, and we've been doing it for the last 20 years.
So, yeah,
So
you're involved obviously with films and even the TV series to this day now, aren't you? So,
yeah,
but was you
yeah.
ever like when it was first going to get approached to be made? Was you ever like were anything mentioned about you working on it from like the first Chucky or any of the sequels or like
When what the TV series?
no, like so when the Child's Play, for instance, like when like
Oh,
the first Child's Play turned like was being made in the 80s to
I heard
90s.
nothing. Yeah, I
So
was
you
working.
weren't so literally
I was
from cold, you just was approached for the Seed of Chucky then.
Yeah, for Seed though. Like I said, I had a relationship with the producer,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he knew I could do animatronics because we did this animatronic cat Binks for
yeah,
Hocus Pocus that had to move. And the original version of it, it moved like a person with
yeah.
human anatomy, which they scrapped because they thought it was too creepy. Um, and then, yeah, I got pulled in to do a budget for Seed, and then it all just sort of exploded over a couple weeks, and then we ended up doing the show.
Wow.
So, yeah, but when the first film came out, I remember seeing commercial for it, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so dumb. It's like you could just hold your hand on his forehead and kick him across the room, and the
I know.
movie's over. And then, here I am now, and it put my kids through college, and I love it and everyone involved with it, and sort of figured out, you know, answered my own questions from the beginning about you know, what makes him more powerful than just a doll, I've really enjoyed the experience and all the people that we work
Yeah.
with. Yeah,
I can see him popping over his shoulder there. He's listening in, I think. So.
oh, oh yeah, there he is. Yeah, yeah. He's on the he's on
Yeah.
the couch relaxing.
Oh, awesome. It's such an iconic character. So, I mean, like, it's looking into your CV and you obviously done, there's such an eclectic mix of like horror, action,
Yeah.
comedy. There's so many things. But they don't seem to, like, during the craze in the 80s for the slasher films, uh,
Uh-huh.
you, like, say, like Tom Savini and stuff like that, icons. Was that something that was you something that you just didn't want to be involved with? I mean, because like as a special effects person,
I
invented
figured that,
deaths, it's surely that'd be great as an like in your earlier career or
yeah, it wasn't anything that really showed up for me in the 80s and 90s, the slasher stuff. Like for me, it was more the Blob than like The Craft and Sleepwalkers and Hocus Pocus.
yeah,
And none of those really, I mean, Sleepwalkers had some carnage in it, but not very much. It seems like we didn't really do much gore, to be honest.
yeah,
Really more like the Addams Family movies, one and two. They're more mainstream and dark humor and just weird stuff. I was doing more weird stuff than I was doing blood and guts. And I don't know that we've done all that much blood and guts, to be honest, other than
yeah,
the Chucky movies. When we got to the TV show, I said I want to focus on the animatronics and the performance and make this thing more alive instead of feeling stretched so thin all the time. Can you
yeah,
guys hire somebody to do the makeup effects? And then they hired somebody that was actually on my crew from the Blob way back in '88. We were shooting up in Canada. He's Canadian and he has a shop up there, Francois Dagenet. So it was like I knew the person. We could overlap on the deaths really well and talk about what I was going to do and what he needed to do and how to make the two things marry together to make the whole effect really successful. But I didn't have the stress or the cleanup or any of that with the blood and gut stuff. I could focus on the performance when we were on set. And I think it
wow.
really made a difference in how Chucky's that much more of a character on the TV show than we ever had him in the two films that we did prior.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I say, going through like the different styles of films and stuff, but then um, I was as surprised as anybody because I'm a big dance music fan that you were involved with Daft Punk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I love Daft Punk. I'm actually going to see a tribute act in Sheffield. Yes, look at that. That's unreal. I was just like, what? How is this going from that to Daft Punk? It's so random. Like, and
Yeah.
do you direct a video and do some other bits like that as well?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
how does that even come about then, being involved with Daft Punk?
I work with Spike Jones on a movie called Three Kings,
Okay,
and
yeah.
Spike was friends with the band, and they came to him and said, "Do you know anybody who could figure out how to make these helmets? Because we want to do stuff with that where it lights up and it's more interactive and stuff." And Spike said, "Well, I know somebody I think could figure it out," and set up a meeting. And they came out to our shop, and I think we were building the big bodysuits for Gwyneth Paltrow for Shallow Hal in this shop at the time. Nothing robotic, nothing animatronic, like out in their point of view at all. And we had this first meeting, and they played some music, and then we just got into it and started like drawing what they were interpreting. And they had some drawings that they brought with them that Alex and Martine, these two guys from France, had drawn up. So we had a starting point, and then we started riffing on it three-dimensionally just with clay, and realized we really liked talking to them and communicating with them, and that this was possible. And then from there, we ended up um, being hired to do the helmets, figure out how to do all that, and then we'd go on set and we would help. And over time, did music videos. I wrote one that they really liked. I was going to do a short film, and they wanted to score it. Um,
Wow.
and but they said if you listen to any of our new music and there's a song you think supports your visuals, be cool if it was a music video. So that's how Primetime came about. Used my daughters in it for because it was a short film I was going to do anyhow. It's
Okay.
different as a music video. You lose a lot of the narrative, and it's a little more expressionistic. It's the narrative isn't as strong, but it's still visually interesting. And then we were going to do a music video for Human After All. It turned into a short film, and then they decided that it could be turned into a feature. So I ended up a producer on that. We all collaborated on that because we had all collaborated on Primetime and both pooled funds and resources and did it together. And then we did Daft Punk's Electroma, which was a um, music video. I mean, a short, Jesus. Daft Punk's Electroma started out as a music video, but ended up as a feature film. And then I think the last thing we did a few years back was a museum display with the robot we did for the Technologic music video, which is what's behind me.
Sweet.
Um, and that was set up on a loop that repeated the buy it, use it, fix it, break it line over and over for 8 hours while the museum was open every day. And the arms move and the head moves and the mouth lip syncs to it. And then there were the figures of the two guys on each side of it. And part of the set from that video was rebuilt. But it was a big museum exhibit at the Philharmonique du Paris about electronic music. And they had stuff from Kraftwerk and different people.
Yeah.
And we helped build that piece of the exhibit. That we
Wow.
helped build the deaf part of the exhibit. So yeah,
That's
so it's been an ongoing, relationship too.
so as an ongoing, like, so you're in touch with him still, like Thomas and Guy? Is it like, are they gonna be touring anytime soon again?
I don't think they're going to be touring, but they're both busy.
I just why don't they just get back together? I mean, I'm going to see some tribute act in Sheffield called Daft Punk. Like, that's the
Oh,
next
that's
best
great.
thing.
That's
And
great.
yeah, I mean, but they've got the helmet, they've got everything. It's the full shebang, but it's just not them, is it? So it's the next best thing.
Right. Right.
But they need to get
It's
back
funny though.
together.
It's funny though, because like the Electroma movie, they directed it and they hired other people to play them. So there's two actors playing them. So it's like they could, it's like why not do that for a show and see what happens?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be fair, I've got the Tron soundtrack, which is easily one of my favorite soundtracks, like full stop, to be fair. I mean, that music in Tron's just incredible. But
Yeah.
I really wish they'd just get back together just for a nice little tour, just a few gigs. I mean, especially with like all these old bands getting back together now and doing big tours. Yeah, just get Daft Punk back together. Yeah, the Beckham Mint. Yeah, you could like
Well, maybe you
retire.
need to wait. Maybe you need to wait till they're 60. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Just give him a phone call. Just tell him,
Yeah,
just nudge him a little bit. Yeah,
right.
but, yeah.
So Tamad did he's been scoring movies and he did a ballet. Um,
Wow.
and he did a like a piece of performance art that was this massive thing done on the outside of a building with people on scaffolding to music and all that. So they've both been doing a lot of stuff,
I
just
can
not,
imagine that. Yeah, the
yeah.
talented guys. So yeah,
Yeah, they're so creative. I mean, they're not going to slow down. They're just, they're free from the chrome and the metal for now, maybe forever.
yeah,
But who knows? Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? I mean, so you've worked through many changes in special effects. I mean, like for going on from practical effects, like everything made by hand, and then it's obviously, I mean, it's a real art form in itself where you're making the sculpting things for movies. Like, what were your thoughts when CGI came into the industry? Like, for the first time, and you was like, I mean, was you worried this, oh, I've got to learn something new? Is it something exciting for you guys, or was it like, oh, is this the end of practical effects?
I thought it was exciting and it was going to be something new that we could use as well. Um, so we kind of got into it a little hardcore and I realized I'm not really good at sitting down in one spot for a long period of time. And my brain wasn't into the computer stuff as much. I'd rather have my hands involved in things. But I always looked at it as something that was going to be a tool that we could use um, to enhance what we were doing. And not too long after that, my thoughts changed to, oh my God, is this going to replace us? Because all the creature suit kind of stuff kind of went away, and Jurassic Park went from stop motion and puppets to digital dinosaurs, and it was all exciting stuff and really cool to see. But I really had my doubts as to the stability of what we do. But now we're in a place where I feel like we've actually realized that it the the ability to use it as a tool, like with Chucky, we're doing a lot of stuff where we're rod puppeteering him and we're closer to him so we can do a better performance, and then we can digitally just paint out the rods and the puppeteers. We get a better end product, and we're using practical stuff in addition to digital stuff. So I think we're in this zone now where there's definitely a lot less creature work for people in suits and stuff like that. Any bigger monsters seem to go digital more often than not. And
Yeah,
sometimes a show that you think would be practical, like I Am Legend and the vampires, in that they're all CG, and it's like that just doesn't feel right.
don't
But
look
I
right.
feel like
No.
yeah, but I feel like now people have realized that, and now things are being used to their best advantage from both arenas. So, but it's been a journey to get there.
Yeah. I was going to say because retro is back. It's cool. It's hip. Yeah, I think ever since probably
Yeah.
Stranger Things. Have you seen more of a shift into practical effects again now, like where it's almost gone full circle? Because I feel like recent things, it's almost they're paying homage to the old effects to do go
Yeah,
back to practical effects again. Where
I,
see,
I think so. Yeah,
yeah,
but I also think a lot of stories are going back to the old, like The Conjuring and stuff like that, where it's old. That could be a '70s movie, you
yeah,
know,
totally.
very, very easily, um, where the stories are more grounded and more based in reality, so the practical effects make more sense. And then if you can use the digital stuff to enhance that as needed, then it's great. But yeah, I think it just
Yeah,
depends on the scope of the film.
yeah,
Um, Guillermo del Toro will always go practical over digital because that's his personal preference, and it's so much richer and it looks beautiful,
Yeah.
you know. But the money people are the ones making the calls a lot of times too. So if they can delay a decision and have it determined in post instead of, prior to filming, and not lose days on set for people going into makeup, I mean, that's where a lot of those decisions come sometimes too. So
Right. It's sad, isn't it, really? I mean, I get it, obviously, like, but I've always thought, when it comes to like horror in particular, like, if you're going to make it something like a monster of some sort of creature or a death or whichever, you know, I'm all for the practical side of things. When it's CGI, it just, I don't know, it loses it. It loses, it's just
yeah,
that romance has gone. Where I feel like in the 80s and 90s, say before Jurassic Park, for instance, it's like the Blob, for instance, and the Thing. These were made by hand. They're incredible, and you just feel it literally is an art form in my eyes. And
yeah.
it's
We're doing a lot more stuff now where people want practical.
yeah. And I could,
People,
sorry,
no, 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 go ahead.
no, I was going to say, like, is this filmmakers coming from a certain generation where they'll purposely ask for that? Then, like you say, like Del Toro and
Yeah, or well, like the guys that we just work with, they're both in their late 40s and they want it all practical, and they actually referenced the blob and some of those types of effects.
hmm,
So their knowledge base is really good. And I just talked to a writer for another film who actually just directed a film, and he went all practical with the film that he just directed. And in talking to him about this script that he's writing, he's referencing films from the 80s and 90s and the practical effects in those films. So it's interesting to see that sort of shift happening and happening now, especially,
yeah, it's great to hear. Like, it's definitely from us guys, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, so unfortunately, I've got to end it. I could literally just talk your ear off for hours and hours. I mean, I'm absolutely gutted. Like, but yeah, but I'm going to end on like, so for any young artists wanting to get into special effects, have you got any advice for them? Like, going into the industry, like, what would you say to up and
Um,
coming guys?
okay. I think the main thing would be you can find a tutorial online now how to do anything. So don't feel afraid to try stuff. You have to try and fail to figure stuff out. And sometimes your failures become an asset on another film. You never know how things are going to work out. But take photos and video of whatever you're doing, even if it's just a quick makeup on yourself. Have proof of what you're capable of doing because a lot of people say they can do stuff and they have nothing to back it up. But the guys that can say, I did this and show you a photo, if you're going to do a job where you need something similar to that, why would you not then hire that person? So if someone can show me kind of like, this is the stuff that I've been messing around with, or these are photos of stuff I put together for my Instagram page, stuff like that's great. I know people that use Instagram as literally just their art portfolio. If you want to hire them, you just click on that and you can see what they're capable of doing. And we've hired people that way, sight unseen, including illustrators that live in Spain. They don't
Wow.
have to be in our neighborhood, you know. Um, Sometimes the language barrier is a challenge. Sometimes it's funny. Um, but sometimes some great mistakes come out of that too that lend themselves to what you're doing. Just be open-minded and just dive in, but document what you do.
Yeah. I mean, like, Instagram must be like such a great tool then for you. Can't like,
It's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, that's brilliant. So yeah, all you up and coming special effects wannabes, there's from the man himself. This is what you need to be looking for. So, um, Tony Gardner, I mean, you're an absolute legend. It's been an honor to interview you. Like I say,
Thanks.
yeah, honestly, like I say, like the movies you've made or been involved with has literally been my whole upbringing in movies. So, this is an absolute honor. So, thank you so
That's
much.
great. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, thanks for doing this. Can't thank you enough. So, thank you, Tony.
Cool. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.